Th- Again, thank you so much, Fred, and leave the room for you and for Ella to start this kind of round table and helping with everything. But can we still quickly again to tell where we are joining from as a kind to see how. So we have here Musamat, yeah, from Toronto. We have Aya from Saudi Arabia. Hi, Aya, nice meeting you and nice having you here. Shireen, we have Shireen Cairo from Cairo, Egypt. Thank you. Oh, we have many from Amherst. And who else? Shruti. Oh, we have a lot from Virginia. Wow.
Hello,
Um,
everyone. How are you?
how are you, Ahmed? You are joining from where, please?
Egypt, actually.
Okay, hi. By the way, I'm
Hi.
Egyptian, but I'm joining from Amherst.
Ah, nice, nice, nice. Cool.
So we have Banker from California. That's right. Okay, so I'll leave it right now to Fred to introduce yourself and for Ala to start helping us with organizing today's talks, roundtable talks, and your facilitation. Fred, thank you so much. Hey, Ala, it's yours, you and Fred.
Well, thank you everybody for coming in on, I'm sure it's probably early for some and late for others, from coming in from all over the place. When Lamia first asked me to do this, I had to say I don't have a lot of expertise on this, but I facilitate a lot of discussion. So what I'm hoping, I did end up doing some preparation, so I have a few things that I can share with folks if you'd like some starter. But really, if you have experiences, you have questions, you have ideas, um, this should be an open, as Lamia said, a round table where we're all having a conversation. Um, One thing I have started doing because of the invitation, I did spend about half a day with an AI asking questions about how to use AI for these things. And it was both informative and really disturbing. Every time I use an I come away feeling like I've had an intellectual Twinkie. Um, and just like I'm not sure if I learned anything or if it's, what's going on with it. So I'm laying out for you ahead of time that I, as a cartoonist, as an artist, I have been on that side of why are we doing this to ourselves? But as an instructional technologist, I am recognizing more and more that these tools can be helpful to faculty, to instructors who are overworked, under-resourced, and it may actually help and it may make teaching better. But we have to be careful about balancing places where the AI tools are maybe taking over things from humans they shouldn't. So how could we use them in a way that help us become more human in our teaching, and not just turn it over to probability machines and these tools? Um, Certainly the conversation I had with the conversation, the exchange I had with the AI a few days ago led to some interesting thought-provoking ideas, and in a few cases, hadn't thought of something before. And so I felt, like I'm getting somewhere where I might be able to write things up for instructors. So one thing I'm in the middle of doing, and then I invite you to participate in, um, we're here to have a conversation amongst ourselves, but if anybody is interested in contributing to this document that I'm putting in the chat, I've opened it up for open editing for like today, maybe a little bit tomorrow, um, where you can see how I've started working with this topic. And if you have thoughts, if you have resources, if you have experiences, if you have questions, I invite you to engage with this document. You can add comments if you just want to add comments, but there are pages further down. There are links on this first page you can see, that take you to pages on particular topics that are currently blank. And I welcome everyone here. If you want to go to one of those topics, one of those pages where you have a question about it, or you have thoughts about it, or you found a neat way to do it, please add that. As I said, I'm going to leave this open for today, the next couple days, I may change it back to comments only, but for this group, if anyone wishes to continue contributing to this document while I'm working on it, let me know. Send me an email, and I will, when I close it down for editing, I am happy to open it up to individuals who've participated today, and we can all collaborate on advice. Um, so, the topic for today is how we can use AI to help us teach better, how to evaluate, how to assess, how to do the work. I call it instructional logistics. How can we use these tools to help us uh, do the work of teaching, not the teaching itself? Although I suppose that's possible, but a lot of the people promoting these tools are promoting them as almost human replacements. Like, oh, you can have this thing draw a picture for you. You can have this thing write a lesson plan. You can have it generate images. And those are things I worry about. That's me personally. I'm not saying you have to. Um, but those are the things I worry about being things that we should do as humans. There may be other things that these can help us with. So that's my question, my initial prompt for you all is what are your big questions about or things you would wish the tool could help you with or has helped you with? What do we have in the room in terms of experience and thoughts on this?
So, okay. Yeah. So, really looking to start.
Uh, please go ahead, Ahmed.
Okay. So I guess the question was more like, what kind of tools do we use currently or normally in our daily, I'd say, tasks? Yes. So I'd probably say I'm using recently Perplexity Pro because it actually helps me in the scanning, scientific articles from different resources, and it's a lot better when it comes to scientific articles versus ChatGPT. Though I kind of like use also ChatGPT in other tasks, including generating ideas and put in more of a comparison between certain sets of data. Uh, uh, Other AI tools that I use also is Gamma AI, and it's amazing in producing PowerPoint presentations. I love it actually in producing that, especially when I actually do generate the prompt from ChatGPT and then transfer it to Gamma
Hmm.
to produce amazing presentations. I actually recommend that.
Okay.
Another one that I've been using also recently is Manus, and it's quite great. It's a Chinese one, but it's splendid. It's very detailed, very meticulous, and can also generate different landing pages and websites and with like special websites. If I wanted to put different data sets, it can actually produce a landing page just specifically for me that explains uh, with different graphs produced. Uh, so that's Manus AI, Gamma AI, Perplexity Pro, and ChatGPT. And there's also another one that I've in video for videos, generating videos. It's quite splendid also. Yeah, that's basically what I'm using at the moment.
Okay. Olive?
Yeah, I just wanted to add and go back to your question, Fred, about the potential of AI in assessment and how it helps us assess the students or evaluate the assignments or their learning progress. So I'm gonna be sharing the long story, not the short one, for me. So I'm somebody who started as enthusiastic about AI potential and reinventing how we assess the students and how we actually structure the assignments.
Yep.
And just a little bit of a background of what I do exactly. I'm a postdoc at the University of Virginia here. I just finished my PhD, but before, or as I was doing my PhD, I was teaching English writing, and that was amidst the evolution of AI and the spread of AI also. So that was a challenge because a lot of the students, a lot of the courses that I was teaching were mandatory. So like the students had no choice in being assigned these courses, so they had to set for English writing courses in college. So there was a lot of resentment, there's a lot of lack of interest, and hence the over-reliance on AI to do the writing for them. And I actually my this kind of exposure prompted me to think there's of course potential for AI, and there is also an invitation to it's a little bit theoretical, but to also for us as instructors to reinvent the way we think writing and reinvent the way we think assessment. Um, and yeah, so that's one of the things that I started thinking about as much as it fascinates for us as people that have been doing the work for so long and have been intellectually developing for a long time. It is very much valid for us, I guess, to have these conversations like how AI tools can help can facilitate the job for us. But also, I think very much at the core of this question is how can we protect the students, our students, from
Mm.
the over-reliance on AI, given the age of development or cognitive development that they're in. They're like 17, 18. Maybe if you are a school teacher, that's even younger generation experience or going through cognitive development. Um, and how much of AI is actually threatening that and is not helping that. It's counterintuitive at this point. Um, for example, how does that translate into me engaging with AI tools in my teaching? Um, Now, for example, what I do is like when I think about an activity in class, and I develop it, from what I know and from the readings and the materials and all that, I would ask an AI tool to make sure that this or to juxtapose this activity and the learning objectives to does this suit students in the
Mm.
first year students in college? Does this suit their level of not only experience in the world, but also how much they know, and they're just fresh from high school, without giving details about the students that might, compromise their confidentiality and everything else that we're responsible for in terms of protecting the students' data, to share publicly outside of university, um, classroom. So another thing that I use AI for example, is like Prezi AI, which is pretty neat in terms of the templates. It's a presentation platform, and it provides templates that are very visually appealing, but it does not do the work for me. And I think this is one of the things like I really need to be very conscientious about with the students. Like if I'm asking them not to rely on AI to do writing for them, but they can use it to explain a concept, to suggest a real and existing source, or to suggest something that they need to read, use it as an assistant, and instead of doing the writing activity for them. I should also be very much maybe the word is honest coming to my mind, but also like disclose how much I'm using that in preparing the classes that I'm in. So that's kind of my perspective right now. I think AI is going to be a reality in higher education or in education in general, and I think we should all engage in these conversations. But now, compared to a year ago, I'm less enthusiastic about it because I think a lot of the conversations that we get in um, doesn't prompt us as educators to reinvent how we teach, to reinvent how we assess, and to change that. Instead, it's more about how does it just help us do the work, and instead of how can we reinvent the work so that we prevent ourselves or protect ourselves and the students from over relying on it, and instead of just putting it in its own place of being an assistant tool instead of the tool that is doing the work for us. I think that's just kind of my contribution here.
Mm. Thank you.
Yeah.
And Prakash?
Yeah, hi everyone. I would like to add on some more points to what Dr. Dala said. So one workshop I attended where the instructor wanted the teachers to learn how to prove where AI is wrong and teach that to students. And this way, student would learn, more about the ethics of using AI in their own, uh, work.
Yeah.
The another part is we can when we are in the classroom, we can use AI and ask AI that can you share some roles which are required for a specific team-based activity. Like students can take up different leadership roles, and what are those? And maybe the student themselves can use AI for that purpose. Another one is on the teacher side. Uh, I've heard it being used to drop learning objectives. It can also be used for the purpose of a specific topic. Which part of the learning space can be utilized for this particular topic? Which will be better. So, things like that are also, coming up. And, I've seen AI being also used for non-graded, the assessments. If you want to use it, maybe use it for the purpose of assignments where there is no formal grade for the exam or anything, where at least immediately there is a time where the instructor can discuss the outcome of a question or a problem and have some discussions going on. So, I'm talking about that, an example coming from a classroom where there were, in a lecture room, there were 1,200 students.
Yeah,
So things like that. But
that's big.
yeah, that's all.
Nice. Thank you. Minhee?
Yes, I thank you for raising some of the really thoughtful questions, and I always want to echo what the other people have said. And I mean, I think there's definitely a room, the necessity for evaluating all this deluge of AI tools in relation to our own specific teaching context. But personally, I feel like there has to be some sort of core fundamental attitude philosophy when I have, uh, uh, like I'm up against with number one, what are the tools I need to use, but more fundamentally, what is the very core human aspect of teaching and learning that I want to preserve, not to outsource to AIs? And also, how can I have like honest, thoughtful conversations with my students? I know I use AI. I know my students use AI, but that conversation, how can I approach that conversation um, in a way that it really it would ultimately enhance my relationship with my students and the very definition of teaching and learning. So I think I like Fred when you mentioned in the beginning, when I tried all these different AI tools, and there is a little bit of excitement, there's a big part of like, oh my God, it's an existential question that I have to,
Yeah.
is the education, is it gonna stay with us? So anyway, I don't want to stay keep us from having very practical conversations, but I would like to have that very a bit heavy but important conversation here too.
That reminds me of a frequent post in artist social media when AI started coming out and they started showing, oh, you can draw a perfect frog, or you could get these pictures. You can do a very common meme artists will post is why didn't they write an AI to help me do my taxes and run my art business? I want to spend more time painting. I don't want an AI to paint for me. What I want is an AI to help me do the business part that I hate. So why are these coders coming after what I love? Anyway, that sounded very familiar. to the point you were making, is what is it we love about teaching, and how do we make sure we're not replacing that part with the AI? Sharon? Oh, we need to have a unmute. Sorry.
Thank you. Quick introduction about myself. I teach in the Rhet and Composition Department of the AUC, the American University in Cairo. And obviously, we're teaching writing, so we are much more impacted than other courses, such as business, of course, where it makes absolute sense to use AI. And I must say that when this whole can of worms started overflowing, opening and overflowing back in November 2023, I was very vocally against AI. But the reality of it is today that we cannot ignore it, and that students are going to use it whether you want it or not. Whether we explain it away or not, they are going to use it. So I think there's a fundamental aspect here. For me, well, something that I've come to understand. And it's not new, it's not a new concept for me, but we always, as teachers or professors, we always have the impression that we need to be the experts. And indeed, I hope we are in our field of knowledge. But experts in also something that is not our field of study. For example, for me, I'm not a tech person. I haven't done computer studies and everything, and yet I'm required, or at least I think I'm required, to be an expert in AI and AI technology. So what I think is important as a solution to jump to that, and something that I've been doing, is actually learning with the students. And what I do is I preface everything by saying to my students, this is why, let me share with you my misgivings about the use of AI. And I explain, how it robs them from the opportunity to think things through and to develop their own critical thinking, etc., all the things that we all know and talk about and are upset about, actually, with AI. And then I say to them, so let's see and I know you're going to use it anyway. So let's try and use it intelligently.
Yeah.
And I say, and we'll discover together how we can best use it. And when I find an opportunity in class when I think it might be useful for us to use AI, let's explore that together and see what it gives. And I do establish a trust. And I think, going back to what you were saying, Minhee, you ask about how is it that we can address this? And I have found right from the beginning, and actually only last Tuesday, we had someone from, I forget which university in the States, and she came in talking about how the important thing was to establish a relationship with their students. And this I do anyway. And all I did was actually capitalize on my good relationship with my students and talk to them. An honest heart-to-heart talk, how I know they're going to use it and it's useful, and, we're all discovering together, but there are some drawbacks, and that I would like to protect them from that. And so together we do that. And it really has been, I've been doing this since November, when I realized that we can't beat it.
Yeah.
We can't beat it. It's like a mobile phone. You cannot forbid people from using the mobile phones. We all know we're being surveilled more and more and more and more, but somehow we're going to keep using those darn phones because they've become part of our life. And I think AI is here to stay. So really, it's navigating that, teaching them how to navigate it in the best possible way. And it's worked. So that, and I keep saying, so that we can use, thank you, Aya, so that we can maintain AI as a tool and not as a manipulator.
Right.
And I insist on that, because for us, we are using it as a tool because we already have the background. I call it the traditional education that we all have had by virtue of our age. But they don't, and they still do right now, if we're talking about first and second and third year university students. But the younger generation, of course, are not going to have that opportunity. So, I'm still hoping that we can instill in them the fact that it has to remain a tool, and we have to control that aspect of it. And having that talk heart to heart, maybe not immediately first days of class, because you haven't had, I'm responding to Minhy's comment in the chat, not immediately, because it takes a good 2-3 weeks to establish a kind of relationship with the students. So maybe 3 weeks into the course, yes, that's when I do it. They've gotten used to me, I've gotten used to them, and that's when I do it. And then I use personally as a teacher, I've found it very useful for the tasks that are simple tasks, but that would take time for me to do. For example, if I have a reading and I want to make sure that they've read it. So what do? I put up I upload the reading, and I'll tell ChatGPT, and I'll say, come up with 20 university level, you have to specify that, 20 university level questions about this text, about the attached text. And then I do it several times. And then that allows me to get a bank of, 60 questions, different questions. And I can give 2 of them to students sitting next to each other so they can't cheat. Yeah. And they have 5 minutes in class to answer. So, it's quick. Either I have them answer orally, okay, you, and I hand them the thing, you answer this one, answer that one, answer this. And then it's very good. And it's fast. And it gives me the 20 questions that I want in 30 seconds. Things like this I find useful, among other things. But of course, never replacing my own sequencing of class. Never replacing the grading. Sometimes, to be quite honest, I'll take a passage from the students' paper, because I do research writing. So of course I have these very long research. So when I find, when I'm not quite sure, I'll take a passage and I'll say, can you pull out, and I be very specific. And I say, what are the rubrics, exactly what I'm looking for, and say, can you evaluate this in terms of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? And it's usually a small paragraph. And I use it maybe more to confirm my own diagnostic when it's a paper that, is a borderline between B and a B minus and then B plus and an A or something like that, a borderline. Paper, not a very good one or a very bad one. Those are very easy to evaluate. Anyway, that's how I might use it.
Oh, those are all excellent. It brings to mind, if you've all seen there was an article years ago about handwritten notes versus typewritten. Have folks seen that one out there? It's usually used by people who hate laptops in the classroom. And so it was a study that showed that students who did handwritten notes, this might be a decade ago, so a different generation, versus the ones who were typing, had better performance on some exams in this test.
Of course they do.
The study pointed out, or what came up to me when I read the study, is that it was less about handwritten versus typing. It's that when you're typing, you can type faster and you can transcribe what the instructor's saying. So you're not really listening, you're just transcribing. While when you handwrite, you're slower. So you have to think about what they just said and rephrase it in a frame that you can write down. So it spends more time in your head. So if you use a laptop, but you're not transcribing, you're actually revising and processing. My suspicion is you do the same, you do about as well as a handwritten. But I'm really seeing that effect even in my own head when I use AI because it goes so quickly. I give it a prompt and it spews a bunch of content and I skim the content, but because I didn't write it, I used AI to help with a project. And when I was trying to present the ideas to my instructor, I had fed a bunch of things in and asked the AI to summarize and give me categories. I found I couldn't speak on the topic. I felt like I knew it, but I didn't really. And I think it's because when you handwrite, when you spend time thinking and reading, you light up more neurons than when you do these shortcuts. So I think that is an important thing to mention to these students is this illusion of
Yes.
learning that they get.
Yes, it's very important, and there are lots of videos that actually show that from a point of view of biological functioning of the brain.
That would be a great thing to
Yeah, definitely.
videos. Yeah.
And I think that's the key. You know, if you show the students, you give them a reason that they can understand, a logical reason, that's really giving them the cognitive tool of the cognitive justification of why, as a professor, you're doing the things you're doing, not just to annoy them, not just to make them more time or to whatever, but really because it improves their own critical thinking skills, and they understand that and they accept it. But we need to explain. We need to be very explicit about the reason why. And then Aya, by the way, I would like to hear what Aya maybe or somebody else needs to say about, you mentioned, sorry, not Aya, Ala, Dr. Ala Abdel Ghaffar, you mentioned the fact that for assessment, and that's so true. We have to change the kinds of assessments we're giving because many of the assessments that are given nowadays, the answer is to be found in a very straightforward AI use of AI, and so that's no use anymore. And we cannot convince the students otherwise. So we have to change the kind of assessments that we're using
Yeah,
and use much more oral presentations.
yeah, Lamia, go ahead and then I will continue to that. Yeah.
Well, right now, I'm trying to wear not the teacher hat, but to wear the student's hat. Okay, because right now in my new role here, my work, I work so like in close with undergraduate students because part of my work, I train them how to implement residential curriculum. So I'm in direct connection with them to the extent that we are talking a lot about their thinking, their barriers, their challenges. It's not about at all being a teacher inside a class. It's more as a friend helping them how they can deliver their work more better up to the expectation of the university. So based on that, I will reply here in terms of that. Like first, as a students, what are the challenges all the time? Why they tend to use AI and they don't care at all about all of these ideas related to their cognitive abilities, their critical skills. They don't think such a way at all because of the challenges like in many cases what they shared, professors, they assign us a number of work without thinking that we are taking 6, 7 courses and we have at the same social life, responsibilities, other stuff that we juggle across all the time. And our courses are so tough. For example, one of the students, she told me like, I'm assigned to finish a book in 1 week for just one course.
Mm.
And I'm studying 7 courses. Besides, I'm working 3 jobs. How can I be done with that? And I need to write a reflective paper on this book and to be ready in the class to present the main ideas introduced in this book. So I asked this guy quickly how he managed. It was that simple. She told me, I went over every chapter with the first paragraph.
Mhm.
That's all I did. And then I uploaded the book on ChatGPT, asking the book, give me the main ideas in every chapter. By that, I'm ready to present the book. Because it's not about that I'm not willing to read, it's more about the reasonable assignments giving to me, taking consideration I'm just a human being.
Mm-hmm.
And the number of assignments on a weekly basis that I need to submit, and the quizzes, the midterms, all of that is not logic, not giving me chance to reflect, to think, to understand, to learn. I'm not giving this a chance because I have all the time to be done with this dozens of work. I have all the time to be juggling across many stuff at the same time. I don't have time. Okay. And this is not just one student, by the way, though all of them are repeating the same scenario. So I think the starting point is not about how do we teach, the amount of work that we assign. If we wanted them to learn, we need to give them chance to digest, reflect, and be in conversation what we are assigning them or what we are wishing them or our end goals.
Mm-hmm.
Just thought. Okay, thank you.
Ahmed, do you have
I love that, and it's sorry.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's all right. Please go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say to Lamia, and no, this is one of the very core problems, or not problems, but as much as it's drives for the students to actually use AI. And it's not because they don't want to learn, which sometimes is something that we as educators or teachers assume that is the case, that they don't want to learn, but it's because of the responsibilities, the load, the unrealistic load that they have over them. And we forget as educators or people that are quite comfortable in their career, we just forget that we operate within a capitalist institution or a society altogether, like, and that actually, and it's big. One of the things that our friend here, Minhee, said, this is an existential question for education altogether. And it's because we have to reinvent and rethink all of these things, not just assessment, but also classroom instruction as well. Like if you meet with the students twice a week, for an hour 15 or an hour 30 minutes, that's almost 3 hours, if not more, a week. And if we rely on lecturing in the classroom, like passive reception of knowledge, and then we also rely on them doing the work outside of classroom, that is something that we actually have to rethink and readopt. And it's not just in the humanities and social sciences, but also in the sciences as well. And it's been very much well researched and documented about flipped classrooms and interaction in class or experiential learning. But I think this is one of the times that we have in education that we really need to adopt these things with like extensive effort because for example, as you said, Lamia, also like when you said about give the students less load and give the students time to digest and process and reflect. This is where the learning happens. And a lot of it happens within the classroom and within very much minimal lecturing. Like for me, for example, I teach classes for an hour, 15 minutes. And as much as I want to say and as much as I want to give them what I know, as much as I limit my lecturing to just 10 minutes out of the an hour 15 minutes, and the rest of the class is about small group activities, small group like reflective thinking and writing, and they're doing some actual problem solving, taking whatever they read in the reading and trying to apply it in case studies and analyze it. Um, and that's where they learn and that's how they learn. And I think for the classes or the courses that allow for such instruction, the students really respond so well, even in the evaluation, and they compare it with the other normative kind of lecture style classes or courses that they have to take in their, majors and all that. And they said, like, I wish it was all like that so that I don't feel like I'm just receiving something and then I have to do tons of work outside of class where I actually don't have time for that. So yeah, so I just echo what Lamia said altogether, and that goes back to what Dr. Shireen Darwish said about we need to reinvent the assessment, and it's a lot more about reflective expression, and it's more about oral presentations and like hands-on work in the classroom. Even if even if they have to write research papers and academic papers, let's try to let's restructure our instruction and have them do most of the work inside the classroom so that they are left after the class time ends. They're left off with very minimal things to catch up on so that next class they have everything, polished out. So I think I agree with everything, and it's a very healthy conversation, honestly, to be part of. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely how I conduct my research classes. Yeah. I give them a lot of time in class. We do a lot of discussion, a lot of group work. And actually I've adopted, sorry, I'm talking out of term. Ahmed, would you like to go? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It's all right. I'll just I'll put a couple of statements here. Is that regarding like how I'm teaching my students, is that I do what's called, so this is kind of like I've personally reinvented the assessments. So I've made two different types. I call it the inclusive and the exclusive. So the inclusive means that it includes all the services, the AI, everything. I need you to actually use the AI. I need you to produce an output from it. But we are going to discuss what you've learned from what the output that you've had, and what kind of pieces of information that you've gained, and what is different, and how can you actually tackle the problems that about a certain topic that the AI has actually given you, right? So this is the inclusive part, or the inclusive assessment, and this is mostly a homework. But the exclusive one, which is excluding the AI, right? It's in the classroom where you're excluding the AI. You're actually doing the work as a teamwork or individually inside the classroom, where there is a certain topic and there's like some kind of a competition. You're now not using all the tools. You need to use the information that you have. The books where you can actually the books provided for you, or the papers provided for you. Just very minimal types of services that can be provided inside the classroom, and then we can actually discuss and compete. Also, there might be like a small competition inside the classroom. So I think this is kind of like it's a self-made type of reinventing the assessment that I've personally made. I didn't actually. I came out of the blue, like thinking, okay, how can I actually adapt according to the technology here, and how can I, make sure that my students are having the best benefit out of my classes, and at the same time, they are enjoying it. So I don't want to have it to be, a chore at the end of the day. So yeah, that's what I've thought of. And go ahead. This is just my 2 cents.
I'm going to quickly throw a link, since we're talking about student use of AI. I'm throwing a link to a web page I created when this whole thing hit. Because someone mentioned Tori Trust. She's in the College of Ed at UMass Amherst, and she is amazing at doing deep thinking around AI. So I'm going to post a link to this page. And a lot of you have mentioned.
So when Shireen was reflecting on
Oh, yes.
center from the state, so I know that there was the Tory Trust was invited by the American University in Cairo to give,
Okay.
like over Zoom, to give a presentation there.
Yeah. And the other lady was Greer something.
She's
Recently on Tuesday. Yeah.
Yeah, she's
Right.
Trust.
One thing on that page I want to highlight, because a lot of people have mentioned teaching writing. There's an instructor, previous instructor at UMass Amherst named Peter Elbow, and he wrote a whole bunch of work. Peter, or
Yes.
Professor Elbow. He wrote a lot of stuff way back in like 80s,
Yes.
early 2000s, that has reemerged for me as like, oh, if we use the way Peter Elbow teaches writing,
Yeah.
it's actually already AI resistant because of the way he does it. So I'm going to post a link to at least what I think is his collection of writing about how to teach writing, in case someone hasn't explored that. But some of his stuff, it's like, oh, wow, if you use this in a class, it makes it, like we've talked about, motivating the students to work authentically rather than feeling like they have to use shortcuts. And what I think Elbow's work does is it reduces that stress that Lamia was talking about. It makes it more low stakes writing, small pieces of writing. So you don't feel like you're reading a whole thing and writing a whole thing. It's just these small little things, and you build
Yeah.
towards more complex writing by the end. And that makes it, oh, why should I ask AI when I can write this
Yeah.
much more quickly? So, sorry, Sharon, you were.
And that's exactly it. And when you do that, I think there are two issues here. Number one, Aya was saying, Ella, sorry, was saying that that's when, I mean, when they're doing things, we give them time to digest the information and everything, and that's when they learn. It's also for us, I feel, that's when we as instructors can assess their learning. And so not every assessment has to be the traditional exam, or the traditional evaluation that we've been given. So if we know our students well, and that's also an added advantage of being what this lady Greer, I forget her last name, Greer something or other, mentioned about the relationship. It's relationship grading. When we establish this kind of relationship with our student, we talk with them more. They are more encouraged to share in class, and therefore we can assess their level of art, whether they're becoming more articulate, more knowledgeable, more critically thinking than they used to, because it's a continuum. We need to assess them, and when they come in, as long as they're at a different level, at a better level, from when they come in to when they finish, that's an assessment that's very important. And doing it like this in presentation, it helps them, it helps us, and it's equally valid, but it needs to be taken into consideration. Not every assessment has to be, I don't want to say pen and paper because this is becoming obsolete, but an exam type assessment. And there's just so much you can do. And I think this is, and when you show, when the other point is, when students experience success in class on these small tasks, it then strengthens your argument when you tell them, you don't need AI, you're good enough, you can make it without AI or with a minimum use of AI. And because we're exploring it in class, sometimes I'll say to them, hey, do you think it would be a good idea to use AI for X, Y, and Z? And sometimes they will say no. And I say, tell me why. Why do you think so? And, and they discuss things. And as a group, they can discuss that. And then when they feel confident enough, I have had many students, it has changed their life. Just the fact that I have been supportive and I have trusted in their abilities. And they come back and say to me, really changed me. You gave me so much self-confidence. You were always in my back. And that's very important. And it's a life skill. Something like this stays with them for life.
Yeah, we've had some administrators sending emails out that I think are AI generated, and they're so poor. I love this idea of giving a student feedback of, oh, wow, you're writing much better than an AI.
Yeah. Because, and then that's how I link it to voice. Voice is a very esoteric, complex concept for students. And I don't think, and I think many professors and teachers themselves don't understand what is voice, or at least if they understand it organically, the way we learned. But it's difficult for professors and teachers to explain to students what is voice. And I have found this is a way of teaching them, look, if all of you use AI in class, okay, we've all used it. What does this give? And you pull random students. And then you show them that, look, it's the same style all over the place. It's the same bland. It's perfect grammatically, sure, but it's bland. It could have been written by any one of you. It's AI. Where's the personality? Where's you coming through? I want to see you. I don't want to see a perfect AI. Nobody's perfect. I want to see you as a person, as a personality, because you are valuable. You have something to say that I want to listen to.
Somebody was pointing out last week in a conversation I was having that they connect people's response to AI the same as uncanny valley, if you're familiar with the term, when computer generated people,
Mm.
especially when it first started, people were very off put by it, like the Polar Express. And this person was connecting it to some basic neurological, very programmed into our brain's response to dead things.
Mm-hmm.
And that when we see something that doesn't look human, doesn't have, like you say, a voice, it's too perfect. It's like a doll,
Yeah.
like a clown. It's like all those things we find creepy. The AI
Yes.
is presenting that way. And I think a lot of people, when you see an AI image or you read AI text, you're getting that kind of pit of the stomach feeling that you're dealing with a dead thing, not a human. And that
Yeah.
was wonderfully Halloweenish take.
Yes.
I need
Very timely.
one one thing about the in class and the kind of assessments we do. I just want to bring, I know we're coming to the end, but a quick story is we had a biology professor years ago who taught biology 101 to 600 students, a smallish, large class at UMass, and he realized that all of the biology tests he had were basically vocabulary tests. He was teaching
Mm.
students how to do vocabulary tests, not how to be biologists. And so he started thinking, how can I get them to be biologists from day one? What do biologists do? And it's like, well, biologists look at stuff and try to figure out what's going on. So his lectures were not lectures. He would show a cell doing something, and he would ask the students in the class to tell him what they thought was going on. And then he used kind of the older response clickers. And he would put up a slide with different groups' ideas of what's going on, and students would vote on what they thought was really going on. And then he would tell them that, yeah, this one won, but it's wrong. They're all wrong. And then the students would get upset. What? Why are we all wrong? And he'd say, well, what do you need to know? Let me explain some stuff to you. And then he would start explaining how cells work. His students retained so much information. Later, he'd give them oh, yeah, that's mitosis. He would tell them what it was after they figured out. And they learned and retained so much that the poor instructor who taught biology 201 had to change the curriculum because every time students went through his class, they learned better, even how to answer a question on a standardized test. So this idea of what do we want them to be? Who are they? Are they artists? Are they biologists? Are they writers? Making sure that the students are doing the work of being a writer or a biologist, I think is important. And I feel like the AI has ways that we might be able to support a 600 student class to be biologists.
Yeah.
I haven't figured those out yet. I would love to. I like your idea of using it to generate a bunch of questions because that allows a different question to every student in a 600 student class. So,
and again, in terms of assessment, you have a bunch of students, and going back again to the relationship idea, once you discover, you have a student who's very good in art, and another who plays the guitar and writes songs, and another who plays the piano, and another who's a ballet dancer, why wouldn't you allow them to express the concept in their own medium? So the guy right now, I have two boys, two friends who are, one is a guitarist and they write songs together. And I said to them, that's great. I want you to write a song. Why don't you come up with a rap song about Carl Jung's shadow concept, since that's what we're doing right now? And they just went with it. And I'm waiting to see what they're going to produce. And I'm sure whatever they produce, it's going to be phenomenal. And even if it isn't, the fact that they've done it, it's going to encourage them to look further. And as a teacher, I don't have to give them everything. It's the old Chinese proverb about teaching to fish instead of giving them fish. And, if I have motivated them enough for them to just go off and learn more about it, I've done my job. And it's that kind of encouragement that they need. And so, and the ballet dancer is going to put on a mini performance, and the other one's going to play well, play the piano. We haven't figured out how, but I think maybe if I can, you know, I told her to tape it, to put it on piano and videotape herself and share it with the class. And somebody else wants to write, oh, and I've had them write poems, all of them. Many of them had never written a poem before, and they just loved it. And there's just so much you can do to have fun, but never forget the point and assess that, but always explain to them that because we're in university, I mean, I'm assuming everybody here teaches university, but because we're in university, we can't just stop there. So then I'll give them a big assessment or a traditional kind of assessment in class, by which time they're so ready to do it. Most of them, I mean, 95% of them are ready to do it, you know? That's
And
it.
it feels to them like natural, because they know it.
Exactly.
Lami.
Thank you so much, Sri, for yourself, because right now it just like revoked in my mind. Very back, I'm not going to tell the age. Back
Yeah.
when I was still teaching at schools, because I started teaching as a K-12 teacher, then I moved after that to university. So at this time, I was teaching grade 2. And I was teaching English and social studies. And in their class, social studies class, they had a chapter mainly or a unit about geographical locations of different countries and the customs and traditions and the habits of every country and region and so on. So at this time, I just decided to do this kind of like a project. Every student to pick a country and explain the geographical location of the country and the customs, the habits, the traditions. But I put a note, it was guide for me like, I have here students, they are so diverse. We're talking about 20 plus. So I thought it okay, I'll give you this kind of freedom, present in a way, whatever way you were to present. It's merely about how to be yourselves. It
Yep.
was the best ever day when having some of them coming. Some of them, one girl, for example, invited her daughter to sing a song in Turkish because she decided to introduce Turkey. Okay. And she prepared a food, traditional food from Turkey. Other student decided to wear like a cowboy. Okay. And come singing a song telling the history and the story of this country. Others, they decide just to do a poster. They don't want to do anything other than a poster. One student decided to use a tablet. He decided to use technology in his presentation. Other, they just wrote a poem. Okay, and to the extent until today, uh, I'm honestly saying that they are still in connection with me, reminding me of this day when they were themselves.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes. Lovely.
Yeah.
Yep. That relationship building.
Yes, exactly.
Um,
And that's what lasts. You know, if we think back of which teachers affected us the most, we learned because we loved the teacher. You know, and I was lucky enough to have 3 teachers in my life who really made a difference, and one of whom I'm still in touch with up to today. And she's really the one who made me love what I'm learning and what I'm doing with the students, and I tell them that. And it just makes, you know, it makes it fun for them to be in my class. They come to class and they're happy to be in my class.
yeah.
Students can do a lot of stuff, even a lot of stuff beyond our expectations, and even
Yeah,
they
of
can.
course. We have as much power to influence positively as we have to influence negatively.
Yeah.
And we have to remember that it's criminal for us to do otherwise. I'm sorry, I feel very strongly about that.
That's
But
a topic that comes up. This might be a branch off for another day, but I work
yeah,
with disability services. And so we talk about accommodations and we talk about universal design. And there's a phrase she throws out a lot of, and I'm losing it. The positive regard, sort of unconditional positive regard, that when you're teaching these students, you just automatically assume they're doing their best. They want to learn.
Yes.
Curious.
Yes.
And so many faculty, especially with the AI wave, it became adversarial, like, oh,
Yeah.
don't you, but universal positive regard
Yeah.
or unconditional positive regard. And Lamia brought up the whole thing about students are under a lot of pressure, school,
Yeah.
life, and the whole world. So how can we help them? How can we treat it not as a cheating, but as a, oh my God, if they're doing this with AI, they must be under so much pressure that they're choosing to do this. So how can
We have to take that with a grain of salt. I mean, we do have the lazy students, but and that's something else I say to them. The human brain is wired to go for facility.
oh yeah, we're
And
efficient.
so, I'll show them studies that say that and prove that. And I explain why in terms of, caveman heritage that we have. But
But you're
but then, you also have to, as I said, maintain the class outcome, the learning outcomes, and tell them that you have a high standard. Yes,
yeah.
you trust them. Yes, you're going to help them. You're going to be as supportive as you can. Yes, you're going to make the class interesting, but they also need to put in 100% of their motivation and effort. And they respond in general. In general, they respond.
What I'm hearing from you is that you are presenting them with unconditional positive regard. You have expectations,
Yeah, all
not
the
that you're
time.
policing them and catching them and
Yeah,
figuring out, you're putting it
yeah,
up there, what your expectations are, and you expect them to meet them, not that you expect
right.
them to cheat. And I read a
Yeah.
lot of syllabi that are so disheartening because it's,
Yes.
and I assume you're going to. Anyway, I
Yeah.
noticed that we're at 11. Lamia, are we running over?
Yeah,
Because
we're
getting
yes.
exciting, and it always does that at the last minute.
Always
Yeah.
conversation, making us all the time stay longer. It's your right now, it's your place if you wanted to end with some words. And it's so fruitful and thoughtful discussion. Thank you for everyone. I really,
Mm,
I think that everyone we had here a very nice time and this kind of fruitful conversation for our minds. If you want anyone want to end with a word,
mhm.
yes.
I just like to say thank you, Lamia, for always organizing these. I don't come in very often because I'm usually working, but when I do, it's always very enjoyable. And thank you, Fred, for doing this again. I think we had you earlier last year or earlier this year. I don't know, time goes so fast. Um, but thank you for facilitating all this, and thank you everyone for your comments and Ale and Minhee and everyone who participated.
It was amazing.
No, yeah, I had a blast today. Thank you everybody for being here. It was very needed, the
Yeah.
validation of concerns and
Yes.
I think the questions that we're all grappling with. I really learned a lot from everybody. One last thing that I would want to add is like as much as we feel pressured in academia or in higher education to actually keep up with the AI and the changes that are happening and all the tools that are coming out and their capabilities and what they can do, as much as we want to keep up and we have this pressure to learn and to incorporate them in our teaching, as much as we actually don't have to a very great extent. Like we still have this flexibility to not use it and to be genuine and or to lean to more to our human genuine kind of teaching. And I feel like I echo with Fred that students actually are longing for this, especially the young generation, that everything is around them is they think it's fake or they think, like it's less human and it's less genuine. They actually long for spaces like classrooms where there is more genuine teaching and there isn't the over reliance on AI or the over acknowledgement of its role in our life. So I just want to give the acknowledgement to this because it's something I also say to myself, like I don't have to use it and I acknowledge it and I acknowledge its existence and I want to learn more about it and I want the students not to fear or to hide that they're using it. So I want to build that trust and also transparency. But I also want to stick to the principle that I believe in, which is the classroom is all humans. Like we need to come here with what we know and our intentions and our goals and learn from there. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh yeah.
Definitely.
Other folk with thought?
Thank you so much. And I like Fred, what you just mentioned when you talked about the biology professor, with a question about what do we want them to be? That really, that's one of the takeaways from this, many takeaways. But I also want to mention the article you wanted to share by Professor Peter Elbows.
Oh, Elbow.
The
Yeah.
link doesn't seem to work. Is it high stakes? Is it how to enhance learning by using high stakes and low stakes writing?
Yes. I
Okay.
shared a broken, I think his publisher.
Yeah, I think if the I think I can find it Google Scholar, I think.
Yes, I
Yeah.
think you
Yeah.
Elbow and low stakes, high stakes. Also, if
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot about from Elbow. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think if you just type in Peter Elbow and pedagogy or something like that, you should come up with quite a lot.
And if you've got a copy of Mikichi's book on college teaching, it's like this, the primary work that a lot of people have out there. There's a whole chapter by Peter Elbow and Mary Dean Sorcinelli.
Okay. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. So rich. Makes me feel better.
Good, good. That's the objective, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Here in the US, it's Halloween today, so it's all spooky outside. And that could have been a route. We could have gone scary today, but instead we went caring and careful.
Yeah. Yes.
Anybody else?
Okay. Just out of interest, Dr. Ala, what do you teach? Writing, I mean, I imagine.
Yeah, no, I used to teach English writing for first year students in the University of Arizona. And once I finished my PhD last May, I joined University of Virginia and I teach less writing intensive courses now. So I teach in the engagement program, which is at AUC is more like core curriculum. So courses that are thematic and like in different humanities subjects, and the students have to choose from them. So now it's less writing intensive courses, but it's more reflective. We do more class activities and reflection and discussion in class more than writing. Yeah, but I used to teach for 2 years English writing at Arizona. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I used to take. I mean, I'm from AUC, and I took a lot of English writing courses when I was an undergrad, and it was one
in
of
the
the
red
things that really
department.
in the writing department. Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things that really helped shape my thinking a lot, and to be analytical writer. So, yeah,
Right.
it's so joyful to see you. I mean, I wasn't a student. I don't wanna. I wasn't a student in your classes, but it's just such a joy to see somebody that is working there now. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I think there are 4 or 5 professors at AUC who used to be my students when I was teaching middle school, which is funny. But yeah, okay.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys. And we can say that happy Halloween, Fred. I hope that you'll enjoy the day today because it's a big day here in the US. And thank you everybody for joining, for your reflections and everything, because I have to tell today was so like a learning day, and it was so good to learn for every one of you. And thank you for being here and joining today. And big thanks for Fred, who always being there. Hey, Fred, help us. So Fred is always there responding and supporting and helping always. So let's
Always have.
come together again next month. We have a very good, nice topic next month that will be on November 29th. We have it with Nagla Hassan. It's a blended learning from an instruction perspective.
Nice.
Okay.
Inshallah. Thank
Okay.
you, Lamia, for this space.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Right? Mhm. Oh, a few people. Thank you, Lamia.
Fred, I'm going to stop there.